Hey, good morning, everybody. Good morning. I don't know if you made it here without blowing away or the wind blew you in the doors of this place. Either way, glad you're here. Really, really grateful for the opportunity to spend this morning with you. My name is Matt Laidlaw, and on behalf of the Open Circle team, I just want to say that no matter who you are, or what you believe, or where your journey has taken you, whatever led you into the doors of this place, we hope that you can make yourself at home this morning, that you can feel free to be yourself in this space. Kids, have fun. Parents, take a deep breath. We're all in this together. So this morning marks a bit of a different direction for our programming on Sunday mornings for the next 4 weeks. Our experiences are going to look a little bit different, and for some of us, it'll feel like, oh man, this is great. For some of us, it'll feel like, oh, it's going to take me a little while to get used to this, but don't worry, we'll guide all of us through it every step of the way. So in a moment, I'm going to guide us through our opening practice. Then we are going to have our story for all ages, and then instead of dismissing to childcare, we're going to ask the kids to stay in here a little bit longer, and we're going to do a guided meditation, which I'll explain in a bit, and our friend Tim Sayers is going to be offering some music with that. And then after that, we will dismiss to childcare, and then we will practice the way of the circle together out in the exhibit hall. Sound good? Sounds great. Okay. All right. But before we do any of that, if you're willing and you're able, please stand up and say hello to some friends. Welcome one another. Introduce yourself to some new faces and say hello. Check, check. All right, friends. We will have plenty of time to keep interacting with each other as the gathering goes on. Thank you for offering this warm welcome to one another. So we generally begin each week of Open Circle with what we call our opening practice, which is just a time for us to open ourselves up to being right here in this space with these people right now together, finding our footing for the morning. And this morning, I want to do something a little bit different. Yes, find your footing. Yes, take some deep breaths. Yes, let all the worries of the day and the week maybe just pass you by so you can be in this moment. But I really would like to just mark this practice in this time in solidarity with the people of Ukraine and with anybody who is a victim of war and violence in the world right now. So we're going to hold about a minute of silence together. That'll be marked by the ringing of a bell. But during this time, I would invite you in whatever way it looks like for you, in whatever way feels comfortable, to just summon peace in your own heart on behalf of the people of Ukraine and on behalf of anyone who's a victim of war and violence in the world right now. So I want to invite you to find a position in your chair that communicates openness to yourself, to one another, to God. Take some deep breaths. And we join together in silence on behalf of the Ukrainian people. May it be so. Before we get to the next thing, I guess the next thing is somebody left these gloves out front. So if at any point, if these are yours, you want to come grab them, I'm just going to set them on the stage right there. Next thing is each week at Open Circle, we share stories for all ages, stories for both the young and the young at heart. We've got a little bit of a surprise this morning, and our friend Gwen is going to explain that to us in a minute. But first, I want to invite anybody, no matter how old you are, young at heart, whatever, if you want to be up close and personal in the splash zone, as you might say, being able to see the pictures for the story, I want to invite you to come up on stage right now. So you can scale the stage, or you can come up these stairs right here and join us for the story.
Here we are. Good morning. I'm Gwen Vogelzang, and our family's a part of Open Circle, and we have a special guest this morning. This is Miss Uma. Can you guys say hi to Miss Uma? Miss Uma is a human rights activist and an author, and this is her beautiful book that just came out this past week. She does not live here, but she grew up here and went to the school where we meet, right here at GVSU. Her dad was a professor here, and she lives in a country called Switzerland now, doing human rights work. And I'm going to let her explain a little bit about this book before she reads it. And the woman who did all the pictures in the book, do you know what that person's called? What? You are right, an illustrator. She lives in Michigan, so she is here, and we're going to be visiting some schools tomorrow talking about this book. So here is Uma. Can we welcome her?
Okay. Can you all hear me? Perfect. Okay. Hi. Thanks for joining me. So this book is called Lujane Dreams of Sunflowers. You all know what sunflowers are. Do you know who Lujane is? Have you heard her name before? So Lujane is a real-life person. This book is inspired by her. And I worked on her case for about 4 years. She was in prison in Saudi Arabia for doing one thing. And you'll learn what that one thing is. Thankfully, she's out of prison now. Took her a long time to get out, and took a lot of fighting with a lot of different governments and, political people to get her out. But she's out, and she's safe, and she's doing the thing that she fought for in this book. So I'm going to read you this book and then tell you a little bit about Lujane at the end. Okay? Sound good? Cool. Do you believe you can fly? I know I will fly. Not immediately, but definitely. Every morning, when Lujane woke up, she squeezed her eyes shut and remembered what she had dreamed the night before. Lujane always dreamed of two things. She dreamed she could fly, and she dreamed she would fly to a place that her Baba described as the carpet of a million sunflowers. Baba in Arabic means father, means dad. After getting out of bed, Lujane followed her Baba into the garden and waited for him to open the door of the shed so she could catch sight of their wings. First, her Baba would take out his own wings. Then he would hand Lujane hers. Lujane put on her wings and ran through the garden, pretending she could fly. Once her Baba's wings were on, he smiled at her, then leaped into the sky. Lujane watched as her Baba soared, becoming smaller and smaller in the blue sky. She lifted her arms to the sky as her Baba disappeared from view, wishing she could fly with him. But because Lujane was a girl, she wasn't allowed to fly. Can you all see this picture? What does Lujane look like? Yeah. Yeah, she looks mad. Would you be mad too if you couldn't fly? Yeah. On school days, Lujane walked to school with her brothers and sisters. She stopped to take pictures with her camera of any color she saw besides the gray of cement and the beige of sand. She gave her Baba her camera film so that he could get the pictures printed. Every week, Lujane would add the pictures to her ever-growing wall of colors. In the center was a photo her Baba had given her. It was the most colorful one of all. This is one of my favorite illustrations in the book. And this is all hand-painted. Rebecca hand-painted all of these. Beautiful. Often, when she looked at it, she would close her eyes and touch the picture, imagining she could feel each color in it, and even imagining she could hold each color in her hand. The brightest blue that was the sky, the deep green of the leaves and stems, the crown of yellow petals, and the black seeds of each sunflower. Floating in a sea of color, Lujane felt free, as if she could do anything. Oh goodness, missing a page. Lujane wondered if she would ever be able to see the sunflowers with her own two eyes, so at dinner time she asked her Baba if she could go with him. Lulu, her Baba said lovingly, the only way to see the sunflowers is to fly over to where they are. But I don't know how to fly, Baba. One day, Lulu, you will. What wonderful news! At school, Lujane told her friends that she too would fly someday, but they called her silly and laughed at her. In the courtyard, her friend Ali tapped Lujane on the shoulder. You should stop telling people you're going to fly, he said. But one day I will, Ali. Don't you believe me? You know that you can't, Lujane. Girls are not allowed to fly, said Ali firmly. Lujane gathered up her courage and said, you will get to fly. I should be able to do the same. That day, Lujane rushed home after school and ran to her room. She threw herself down on the bed and started to cry. But then Lujane reached out to the sunflowers on the wall. I will see you, she whispered. The next morning, Lujane woke up early so that she could talk to her Baba. Baba, you must teach me how to fly now. It's not fair that I cannot fly. All the boys are already starting to learn. Why not me? Her Baba looked at Lujane for a long time. Then he went into the house. Lujane's mama saw him come inside and asked him what was wrong. Lulu wants to fly, he said, but we both know she cannot. Not really. Lujane's mama thought for a moment. Why should flying only be for boys, she said, if we can all use wings? Lujane's Baba listened. If you don't support her, who will, her mama said. You have to believe things will change. Otherwise, they never will. Lujane's Baba looked at his wife, then turned and went out to the garden. Now, this page is pretty awesome because this tells part of the story without any words. So what Rebecca drew is Lujane's Baba holding her arm. Lujane has her wings on. Then she's holding onto her arm, and he's kind of running around in the garden with her. Then he's holding her by her tummy and holding her up. Sometimes your parents probably would have done that for you. And then putting her on a tree, kind of like a little bird learns how to fly. And then her jumping from the tree and soaring. After that day, Lujane always went out just before sunrise to fly with her Baba. They watched together as the sky woke up with pink, red, and gold. Lujane felt as if a color touched her skin. She ran her fingers like a comb through the awakening purple clouds and closed her eyes, trying to memorize the feeling of each color. But at night, Lujane would still dream of the sunflowers. One morning, when it was very dark outside, her Baba woke her up. Baba, why are we up so early? Lujane asked. Because we are going to be flying a long way today, he said. The house was quiet as Lujane and her Baba slipped into the garden and put on their wings. As they rose higher and higher, Lujane looked all around her. The stars were still visible in the dark blue sky, with a tiny line of orange on the horizon. Lujane and her Baba flew in silence. With every flap of their wings, the sky awakened a bit more. And then Lujane saw in the distance something that seemed strangely familiar, a sea of yellow and green. She flew as fast as she could. She couldn't believe her eyes. It was the carpet of 1,000,000 sunflowers. She's there in the middle of the sunflowers with her arms out into the sky. Luzane landed in the middle of the field and stretched her arms straight up to the sky. At last, the brightest of blue that was the sky, the deep green of the leaves and stems, the crown of yellow petals, and the black seeds of each sunflower. Her Baba took a picture of Luzane flying above the sunflowers. That night, Luzane lay in bed, her eyes wide open. She wondered if she would ever sleep again, now that she had seen and felt and smelled every color from her dreams. The next morning, after their flying lesson, her Baba and Mama walked with Luzane and her brothers and sisters to school. As they passed through the market, Luzane noticed people pointing, whispering, and staring at her, and she wondered what they were saying. Baba stopped at a stand and bought a newspaper. "Look, Lulu," he said, pointing at a picture. It was Luzane, flying above the field of sunflowers. But then Luzane read the words around the picture. "Young girl defies flying law." Does anyone know what defies mean? Yeah, Abby. Yeah, she broke the law. She broke the flying law. She stared at the words uncertainly until her mama said, "Lulu, we are proud of you for flying." As they continued walking through the market, they passed the wing shop. There, a young girl was tugging at her Baba's shirt and pointing. "Baba, Baba, teach me how to fly," she said. "I want to see the sunflowers too." "Do you believe you can fly?" "I know you will fly. Not immediately, but definitely." And this is the real life Luzane. Luzane was put in prison for driving. She filmed herself driving a car. She wasn't allowed to because she was a girl in Saudi Arabia. She filmed herself driving a car, and that video was seen by people all over the world, and she was put in prison for it. And she stayed in prison for almost 3 years, and now she can drive. Because of what she did, now women in Saudi Arabia can drive cars and do many, many more things. Thank you for listening, everybody.
Check, check. All right, kiddos, friends, if you want to go back to where you were sitting with your mom or dad or whoever brought you here today, and we'll go to childcare in just a few minutes. Uma and Gwen, thank you.